Discover how a widowed man's kindness transforms a fleeing bride's life from danger to hopeful freedom. Jack's workshop smelled of sawdust and old wood. It had been another sweltering afternoon in his quaint Midwestern town. As he carved intricate designs into the wooden beams, his heart felt heavy with the absence of laughter, the echo of love lost when his wife passed. The dream of creating a community art center, her wish, loomed over him like a dark cloud, daunting and incomplete. Just as despair threatened to engulf him, a gentle knock on the door broke his concentration. Wiping his sweaty hands on his faded canvas pants, he swung the door open, revealing Emily. With wide eyes, her wedding dress clung tightly, dusty with the remnants of his workshop and her desperation. "I need help," she breathed, her voice trembling as if it might shatter at any moment. The weight of her fear resonated with Jack, stirring in him a protective instinct tinged with uncertainty. Instantly, he felt a connection, a spark of warmth in the otherwise cold aftermath of his grief. "Come inside," he urged, stepping aside, and allowing her in a choice that felt both familiar and terrifying. Emily's poignant story spilled out like paint across a canvas, each word reflecting her struggle against the rigid expectations of her wealthy family. Jack really listened night after night, to her anguish, allowing his own memories of betrayal and longing to creep back into his consciousness. How had life become such a complicated web of responsibilities? Was he simply a carpenter, destined to remain in the shadows of a lost dream? His heart raced as he questioned whether he could really offer Emily the sanctuary she sought, battling against the confines of societal expectations. What if he led her deeper into turmoil rather than pulling her from it? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension grew between them as nights turned to days, their stolen moments transforming into something profound yet fraught with peril. Just when he thought he could protect her, the storm descended. Emily's family stormed into the workshop one evening, their presence a tidal wave crashing against his modest existence. The accusations hurled at him felt like daggers. How could he, a mere carpenter, possibly be worthy of her love or safety? Jack's breath caught in his throat as he faced their contempt, a powerful uncertainty pulling at him, a fear that he could lose the only connection he'd dared to nurture since his wife's passing. With the wedding day looming, thunderous dread hung over them like an impending storm. Jack wrestled with the perilous decision of standing up against Emily's family while battling his own inner tumult, whether love could survive beneath the weight of their judgment. Would he let her slip away to conform to an unwanted fate, or fight for her freedom at the risk of his own fragile existence? Their whispered convictions echoed in the night, a shrill reminder of what was at stake as shadows crept closer, darkening their fragile haven, leaving them suspended on the edge of decision. As the clock ticked down, a phone rang, a chilling sound slicing through the air, a reminder of Emily's past and the chains it might reforge. Jack glanced at Emily, their wide eyes locking in a shared moment of panic. Each heartbeat resonated loud in his ears, drowning out the uncertainty that lingered like a dark mist. Was this the decision waiting to propel them toward freedom, or the final blow that would extinguish their hopes? Jack's hands trembled as he reached for the phone, the device feeling like a foreign object, a catalyst for chaos. He recognized the number without needing to check. The constant reminders of Emily's past loomed over him like an executioner's blade. Each ring clawed at his resolve, an unwelcome reminder that the world outside was relentless, pressing in on their fragile sanctuary. "Don't answer it," Emily whispered, her voice a cocktail of fear and urgency, but Jack felt an overwhelming obligation to confront whatever lay behind the veil of that phone call. Ignoring her plea stoked the fires of his inner turmoil. The scattered pieces of his own life, the scattered dreams alongside Emily's desperate hope, threatened to unravel. "I need to know," he murmured, challenging both her and himself to trust this instinct. He thought about his late wife, the long lessons of courage she taught him, her laughter a spectral echo guiding him now. The past swirled in his mind, a vivid reminder that to truly embrace kindness, one must often confront their greatest fears. Jack swallowed hard, plucking up the courage to answer. "Hello." An icy silence met him, followed by a voice, sharp and impatient. "Emily, where are you? You can't run away from this." The word struck him, a clattering of chains echoing the very life he hoped to keep her from. Jack glanced at Emily, her eyes were wide with terror, a silent plea crashing against the wall of his determination. This was not just about him anymore, it was about the life they could carve out together against the forces aligned to tear them apart. "Stay calm, I'll handle this," he assured her, aware that it was not simply a matter of speaking but embodying strength, an unfamiliar feeling for a man so recently encased in grief and regret. "This is Jack. Emily is not interested in your demands." The voice on the other end bristled with indignation. "You think you can protect her? You're just a carpenter. She needs someone strong, someone who will support her future." That accusation burned hotter than the summer sun in his workshop. A spark ignited within him, fueled by indignation and a flicker of hope. Who was he, but a man forged in sorrow, capable of creation despite his flaws? Strength is not just in wealth or status. It's in the courage to fight for what is right, he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. He set the phone down and turned to Emily, who still trembled, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. "We can't let them intimidate you," he continued, realizing that this was about more than survival, it was about carving a space for their dreams, however fragile they seemed. "You deserve a choice, Emily. We'll make it together." Emily stepped towards him, the spark of determination reflected in her tear-brimmed eyes transforming into resilience. "But how? They won't stop coming for me. They'll destroy everything." Jack's mind raced as he searched for a solution. The pieces of the future they could build together began aligning in his thoughts, and with them came a revelation. He had spent too long in the quiet, his life defined by loss and labor. Suddenly, he understood, artistry was not just about crafting wood but creating life layers upon layers of choice and resilience. "Then we fight back," he declared, and for the first time since he lost his wife, a sense of purpose surged through him. "We'll document everything, the threats, the harassment. I'll find a way to gather support for you. This isn't just about two people in love, we challenge the very idea of control they wield over you." Emily nodded, and Jack felt her conviction sinking with his own. The moment felt profound, a shared oath to something larger than themselves. Yet, uncertainty twisted inside him. Was it enough? In the distance, the sun lowered, casting long shadows over the workshop, and as they began to strategize, an impending sense of resolution grew. Yet, with each plan they drafted, the darkness of Emily's past slithered closer, a lurking danger that reminded Jack that the battle was just beginning. Just as he felt the shift towards empowerment, another ominous ring sliced through the air, another call from the past, another reminder that their journey would be fraught with peril. Jack looked at Emily, gripped tightly in this newfound urgency. "Are you ready to stand and face them?" The question hung heavy in the air, and as they exchanged resolute glances, uncertainty loomed large. The moment to confront their shared fears had arrived. As the weight of Jack's question lingered, an almost tangible silence filled the workshop. It was an unnatural stillness, the kind that amplifies thoughts swirling in the mind. Jack's heart hammered against his ribcage as he marinated in doubts laced with determination. Emily's answer came as a whisper, almost swallowed by the shadows hanging thick around them. "I want to be brave, but I'm scared, Jack. I don't want to keep running." Feeling the gravity of her words, Jack reached out for her hand, intertwining their fingers in a silent pact. The warmth of her palm offered reassurance, a reminder that they were anchored together. "Then let us turn the fear into strength. We take back control. Forget hiding, our next move has to be one that shifts the power back to us." The unity of their shared goal charged the air with possibilities as reality pressed onward. Jack's mind whirled through tactics, calling upon the partitioned fragments of his life to help him navigate the tumultuous waters of Emily's predicament. He had spent years mastering wood, each grain bending and twisting under his hands, yet here he stood at the brink of forging something far greater: his own resilience. Days blurred into nights as they carved hard-won plans, meticulously documenting every hostile call and text that bombarded Emily. Jack even reached out to the few friends still lingering in his life, their responses cautiously optimistic but laced with concern. Every call, every text felt like a step into a daunting unknown. Yet, with each interaction, Jack discovered a newfound capability coursing through his veins: the determination to create safety within chaos. One evening, while perusing a thread of online forums dedicated to domestic issues, he stumbled upon a truth that fueled his vigor: the stories of people overcoming fear with solidarity. It dawned on him that many had survived predicaments more harrowing than Emily's, often armed with nothing but tenacity and a network forged from shared resolve. What if we find a local shelter? Jack posed during one of their late-night discussions, his tone lively with hope. They might have resources, legal help, or even support groups, places where you can talk. Emily frowned, shifting her weight as if rejecting the idea before it had a chance to settle. What if they don't take me seriously? What if I'm just another case? The slight tremor in her voice alerted Jack, sending an electrifying jolt of anger up his spine, not at her, but at the threats closing in on her. Every voice matters, Emily. You deserve to be heard. We could engage with people who understand this fight, people who've dealt with nightmares similar to yours. They know how to help. They formed a tangible plan of action, one that didn't solely rest on hopes and dreams but included measurable steps forward. Each point brought clarity, navigating them one turn deeper into an unfamiliar territory filled with uncertainty yet heavy with possibility. Slowly, Emily found herself embracing the concept of support, amidst her fears of judgment and vulnerability. The desolate contours of her past receded as she began to reclaim her narrative, intertwining it with Jack's. In the process, he realized that she, too, was beginning to carve her own identity out of victimhood, a concept he had once struggled deeply with. The dynamic of their relationship shifted subtly, fueling an authentic understanding of each other's struggles. Jack unearthed remnants of his own grief through Emily's experience, pushing past old ghosts haunting him. Each shared story, each vulnerable moment stretched their bond into territory he hadn't anticipated, one teeming with rich potential. But just when the embers of their newfound resolve began to illuminate their path, a sudden electric buzz shattered the fragile peace. Jack's phone lit up with a text, one he knew all too well. The uncertainty, once a resolution was emerging, now knotted tight in his gut. The message was short, blaring with menace: "You've made a mistake trying to fight back. It won't end well for either of you." The threat loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to eclipse the light they had just started to forge. Jack's heart lurched as he turned to Emily, the weight of the moment pressing upon him again. "They've come for us. Are you still ready to stand and confront them?" The stakes had escalated, and now the real battle awaited. The time had come to determine if determination could stand tall against tangible threats and transform fear into indomitable courage. Jack's mind raced as he studied Emily's face, her features taut with a mix of fear and newfound determination. The darkness closing in felt even more oppressive, yet there was vibrancy within her, a flicker of strength igniting like a match against the dark. "We need to decide our next step," he murmured, trying to keep his voice steady. The stakes had shifted from vague threats to direct opposition. Emily took a deep breath, her eyes darting away momentarily. "I've never been one to confront anything head-on. It scares me, Jack." The quiver in her voice betrayed the resolve woven into her facade. It was a truth that gnawed at him: she needed more than encouragement, she required a clear strategy rooted in reality. "Then we'll equip ourselves to confront this," he replied, frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "Let us focus on gathering every possible resource we can, legal, emotional, whatever it takes." The kitchen table became their war room. Papers littered its surface as they dove into the specifics of their plan. Hours bled into discussions of protective orders, local shelters, and ways to document each threat. Jack utilized his knack for organization, transforming lists into strategies that felt empowering rather than daunting. Yet amidst their preparations, doubt still lingered. Would they actually take action when the moment neared? The brewing storm of uncertainty gnawed at him. He had skirted the edge of confrontation before, driven back by fear and grief. But now, with Emily at his side, a change began to take root. Somewhere within the coalescence of their shared fears lay the raw materials for resilience. As Jack immersed himself in the intricacies of the plan, he found a strand of lucidity emerging from his chaotic thoughts. He abandoned the suffocating weight of his past and recognized how far he had traveled into this new territory, building a sense of purpose that eclipsed the ghosts of his late wife's tragic memories. Jack could no longer be the sidelined husband defined by loss. He needed to be an active participant in both their lives. Days passed with heightened awareness as circles of trust expanded around them. Friends who had once drifted away were gradually reeled back into the fold as Jack initiated conversations that reflected both vulnerability and strength. What surprised Jack the most was his own sensitivity to their responses. Empathy surged as he honed in on people's truths, much like how he understood wood grain. Every interaction was an opportunity for connection, a chance to engage in raw honesty. But as the walls of their plans fortified, the tension rose, fueled by the ongoing threats that loomed like shadows on their doorstep. Each night, Jack lay awake, eyes glued to the ceiling, mind racing with anxiety creeping into their sanctuary. What if the next step set their adversary in motion? What if they lost everything? One overcast evening, as they shuffled through yet another list of resources, Emily's phone rang, the tone jolting both of them from their focused intensity. Seeing the name flash across the screen, her face lost color. It was a call from her past, an echo of everything they were trying to escape. "Do you want to answer it?" Jack asked, a mix of concern and caution threading through his voice. Emily glanced at him, uncertainty in her eyes yet also the weight of necessity. What if it's a trap? What if? What if it's a chance to regain control? Jack countered, adrenaline rushing through him as he leaned in closer. Jack could see the internal battle unfolding, the confidence they had been painstakingly building now teetering on the brink. This could be your turn to stand tall, to take charge. As she hesitated, Jack saw the flicker of resolve in her gaze returning. The urge to lean into fear and secrecy battled against the compelling need for empowerment. "Let us take the plunge together," he urged. "This is our life, Emily. Let us claim it right now." With a deep breath, she steadied herself and pressed the answer button. The voice on the other end crackled with familiarity that sent chills racing down her spine. The stakes had just escalated to a perilous new level, and as the conversation unfolded, Jack braced himself for whatever confrontation lay ahead. They were finally facing the disease of silence head-on. But could they bear the consequences of speaking their truth? The air thickened, charged with an anticipation that screamed they were on the precipice of something monumental. Jack held his breath, feeling the gravity of the moment as the past began to collide with their newfound resolve. This time, there would be no retreat. As the voice on the phone continued, he sensed a wave of confrontation clawing closer to the surface. This was just the beginning of their true battle. "Are you ready for what comes next?" he whispered, knowing that whatever happened now might change everything. Jack leaned closer, his instincts tightening as he listened to Emily's side of the conversation. The voice on the other end, once a source of fear for her, now held a dual promise of danger and potential liberation. Emily's brow furrowed and her fingers trembled as she gripped the phone tightly, battling the pull of her past. "Hello?" Emily croaked, the bravado she had summoned started to fracture. Jack's heart raced, caught between admiration for Emily's courage and the gnawing worry that they had stirred up something more than they were prepared for. "Emily, it's me," the voice said flatly, as if the years had evaporated into an unrecognizable tension. "I'm not finished with you." Jack's stomach dropped. In that moment, he saw the flickering lights of resilience in Emily's eyes, mingled with shadows of fear. She had faced fears before, but this was something entirely different. It struck deeper, threatening to sever the threads of hope they had woven together. "Why are you calling?" Emily's voice rose securely, a slight tremor barely audible. Jack could sense the internal scurry of her thoughts, a whirlwind of memories that could either break her down or transform her. Because I want to talk. You shouldn't be trying to run from this, the voice replied, nonchalantly, as if simply discussing the weather. It's not between us anymore, it's about what you think you've built. You can't escape me. Jack observed the changes in Emily's demeanor as she hung on the thin line between vulnerability and defiance. He understood that this moment would define how they would forge ahead. Rising to meet this challenge felt imperative. Talk to him, Emily, he encouraged quietly, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. You have the control now. Her expression shifted then, the tiny flame of resolve rekindling. It was clear she needed to reclaim her narrative, to confront the past that had plagued her. Jack took a breath, feeling the warmth of hope filling the air where fear had loomed. Listen, she began, her voice steadying. You don't control me anymore. I'm done being afraid. I have a life now. Jack's heart thundered, he felt pride swelling within him. Her words were like stakes driving into the ground, grounding her in the present while slashing ties to the past. He wanted to jump in, to reaffirm her strength, but he sensed this was her moment. Is that right? The voice challenged, no longer smooth but heavy with an unsettling tension. What makes you think that you can just walk away after everything I've done? I'm not just going to let you go. As the conversation spiraled into a dangerous territory, this realization dawned on Jack: the battle was not just for Emily's safety, it was about her reclaiming ownership of her story. This was a test for both of them, a challenge to rise or fall. Suddenly, Emily's confidence wavered, nostalgia creeping into her voice. I thought you changed. What I want hasn't changed, he insisted coldly, and a chill settled between the lines. Jack's fists clenched instinctively at the recognition of this unyielding threat. Don't you dare try to twist this, Emily shot back with newfound vigor. I know who I am now. I'm not that scared girl anymore. As the phone conversation reached its peak intensity, Jack felt the creeping urgency. He had to hold her ground, support her in the face of this intimidation, but he also knew they needed more than courage, they needed a plan, a backup, a way to turn the odds back in their favor. Let us not just talk, the voice continued, dripping with malice. Let me come see you. We've got unfinished business. Absolutely not, Jack said firmly, his voice stepping in, breaking through the tension like a solid wall. He was ready to protect, to confront, willing to stand between Emily and that lurking threat. Let him come, Emily said suddenly, the defiance glinting like steel in her eyes. Jack felt a jarring shock ripple through him. What? Emily, I'm done running, Jack. If he wants to play games, let us play. I'm not afraid anymore. The challenging proposition echoed in the tension-filled kitchen, and Jack's heart raced. What were they walking into? Courage surged within him too, mingling with an undercurrent of dread. They had to be prepared, not just emotionally, but strategically. As this confrontation mounted, he understood that recognition of ability wasn't just about acknowledging fear, it was about embracing the uncharted territory of action. What happens now? He whispered, both terrified and excited about the potential shift this could bring. As Emily squared her shoulders, determination lighting her features, Jack realized, they were staring down the abyss of their greatest trial. The next move, the tactic that would either define or destroy, lingered tantalizingly ahead. This is just the beginning, Jack affirmed, clenching his jaw, fortified by Emily's budding strength. Together, they would face whatever consequences lay ahead, bolstered by their solidarity, and behind that pressing certainty hung the question that loomed larger than any before. Were they really ready to face the consequences, or would this choice be their point of no return? Emily's heart thrummed with a mix of fear and exhilaration as she hung up the phone. The immediate silence was both a relief and a burden, pressing heavy on her chest. She had made a choice to confront her past, but the implications of that decision began to cascade around her like an avalanche. Energized yet anxious, she turned to Jack. What now? she asked, her voice tinged with resolve but laced with uncertainty. Jack's eyes were steady, emboldened by the sudden shift in Emily's demeanor. He could see the weight of her past mingling with the strength of her present, a potent combination that both terrified and inspired him. "We need to plan," he responded, a sense of urgency igniting his thoughts. "You should be prepared for anything. He knows your life has changed." He won't back down easily. Her face paled, but that flicker of defiance ignited once more. "I won't let him intimidate me, Jack. This is my life. I have to take control of it." Jack felt the tension uncoil slightly as he watched her mentally take inventory of her situation. This was Emily asserting herself, acknowledging her power for the first time. It struck him how important it was for her to not only confront the voice on the other end of the line but to fully embrace her identity without the shackles of fear. "Okay," he replied, his tone soft yet firm. "Let us start by gathering everything we need to know about him. We have to understand what we're facing. Knowledge is our ally now." Emily nodded, taking a deep breath that seemed to fill the void of uncertainty momentarily. "I'll dig through old files, maybe I can find something useful. I used to keep everything organized back then." Her determination to reclaim ownership over her life burgeoned, and in that moment, Jack recognized a hidden aspect of her strength that had always been their resilience layered beneath years of insecurity. "I'll support you in whatever way you need," he assured her, ready to stand by as she faced what lurked behind her past. As they worked together, the atmosphere in the apartment shifted. They transformed the space into a makeshift war room, a place of action instead of fear. Emily began pulling together papers that told the story of her life before, the good, the bad, and the haunting chapters that had pushed her to flee. Jack stood by, offering quiet encouragement and ready to step in if old wounds threatened to crack open again. "Here," Emily said, coming across a faded article that detailed an incident related to her past, the kind of detail that could serve as leverage. It felt like evidence of her survival, a reminder of the strength it had taken to overcome the challenges that had previously consumed her. Jack leaned in, examining the clipping. "This is perfect. We can use this to build your narrative. It gives you a foundation to reclaim your voice." She glanced at him from the corner of her eye, a flicker of gratitude passing over her. It was clear they were entering a new dynamic, one where her past became a tool for empowerment rather than a specter of fear. With every piece of information she unearthed, she was rewriting her story, but as the hours slipped away, a gnawing question lingered in the back of her mind. Would her past truly stay buried, or was this merely the calm before an incoming storm? Emily couldn't shake the foreboding sense that their opponent wouldn't sit idly by, waiting for them to reveal their strategies. "I need to consider my next move," she murmured, unease bubbling beneath her confidence. Jack recognized the shift, the weight of reality intruding. He could feel the tension mounting as thoughts of confrontation materialized. The voice from that haunting call would not remain silent much longer. "The time has come to face it, Emily," Jack said, his voice a steady anchor amidst the growing torrent. "We can't just prepare, we must act. It's time to take the fight to him." With her heart racing, Emily felt the moment crystallize in her mind. She was ready, but could she truly withstand the repercussions of standing firm? As the electricity of her resolve coursed through her, she understood that every step forward ushered her deeper into the territory of confrontation, acceptance, and fearlessness. And then came the question that thrust everything into focus: could she really develop the life she envisioned, or would stepping forward again unravel the hard-won progress she had made? Whatever lay ahead, she would have to confront not just the voice that haunted her, but the shadows of her own doubts. The game was afoot, and both victory and peril danced on the horizon. The following day, Emily rose with a weighty sense of purpose. The remnants of fear that had shadowed her steps were gradually being overshadowed by a sense of agency. She was no longer just reacting, she was ready to take the initiative in her own story. In the stillness of the morning, she sat at her kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window like a beacon, illuminating the messy pile of documents scattered before her. Clippings and scattered notes swirled around her, chaotic and fragmented, much like her past. Yet, from this chaos emerged clarity, a chance to assess, understand, and, ultimately, reclaim her narrative. As she sifted through the papers, each piece told her a story. The girl who had once felt powerless now gathering evidence of her resilience. A calendar marked with old commitments reminded her of goals she had abandoned when she fled. It was time to revisit those ambitions, embrace the woman she wanted to be, and confront who had kept her from it. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she picked up another faded article. It detailed her fight to establish independence in a world that had tried to confine her. Perhaps Jack was right, these memories could become not only a strategy for confrontation but a foundation for empowerment. Stirred by a surge of courage, she opened her laptop and began drafting a presentation that would lay out her story, the pain, the growth, and her unwavering resolve. Hours flowed like water, her fingers danced over the keys, and for the first time in a long while, she felt in control. The act of articulating her experience felt like shedding layers of the past, as though each word written was a thread stitching together a life unbound. Yet among these threads lay the spools of uncertainty that threatened to unravel her newfound strength. Jack entered, breaking her focus. "How's the war room coming along?" he asked, his voice laced with encouragement. Surprisingly cathartic, she replied, flashing him a smile that harbored more certainty than she felt inside. "I'm outlining my plan. It's not just about facing him, it's about rediscovering myself. I can't just represent what he has taken from me, but what I've built afterward." His eyes sparked with admiration. "That's the spirit. This isn't just a counteroffensive, it's a pathway to healing." "Exactly," she said, emboldened. "I've been burdened by his shadow for too long. Now, I want to set my own course. He holds no power over what I become." Jack nodded, his support acting as a solid foundation beneath her resolve. "Let's create a timeline and include your milestones. The more you frame this, the less it becomes about fear and more about your vision." As they laid out the timeline on a large whiteboard, every milestone Emily added was a testament to her growth and resolve, each one a checkpoint that asserted her journey was a continuous evolution rather than a fixed past. However, as she scribed her aspirations, getting a new job, standing up to those who doubted her, and embracing the power she had found, her mind flipped through a mental catalogue of all that could go wrong. Her heart fluttered with uncertainty, and a whisper of doubt gnawed at the edges of her determination. What if the past came crashing down on her before she finished building herself up? The doorbell chimed, cutting through her moment of introspection. Jack went to answer it. The rhythmic pounding of her heart quickened as she pondered the unexpected visitor. "Emily, it's for you," Jack called, his voice steady, yet tinged with curiosity. There it was, the palpable tension of the unknown. She walked toward the door, every step a blend of anticipation and dread. As she approached, the door creaked open to reveal a familiar face that sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We need to talk," her old mentor said, the urgency in her tone sending an immediate shiver through Emily's resolve. Here lay the intersection of past and present, a moment of decision that would thrust her deeper into the confrontation she had prepared for. Would she embrace this chance to engage with her history, or retreat to the safety of her planned narrative? The stakes had never been higher. It was a pivotal moment that determined if she would allow her past to provide guidance or suffocate her progress. The moment hung in the air like a pendulum. Emily inhaled sharply, the weight of adversity coiling in her chest, determination igniting. It was time to confront both mentor and memories, making the personal clash that awaited her inevitable. She could almost hear the storm brewing on the horizon, and it urged her forward into the whirlwind of resolution and risk. "Let's talk," she declared, stepping fully into the light of her former life. Emily held her breath, grappling with the whirlwind of emotions that surged as her mentor, Mia, stepped inside. The familiarity of the space contrasted starkly with the tension now thickening the air. Mia's presence was an unexpected reminder of the choices Emily had made, the ambitions she once harbored, and the fears she had buried deeply. "What's this about?" Emily asked, her voice firm despite the flutter of her insides. Mia's expression shifted, revealing a blend of concern and something resembling pride. "I've been hearing things, Emily. It's about your presentation. A quickened heartbeat echoed in her ears, her writing, her efforts, it was all meant to be a private rebellion. Did the world truly extend its hand beyond her window? And they say you've got a brilliant story to tell, that you're poised for something great. But I'm worried. You need to prepare for how the past might collide with your present. Emily's gaze dropped, the words hitting close to home. Mia was right, she had dared to step onto a path of visibility, and with visibility came vulnerability. The past loomed like a shadow, ready to strike at any moment. I'm not fleeing anymore, Mia. I want to face it head on. Do you? The question lingered, challenging her resolve. Facing it means embracing those demons head on. What if they overwhelm you, Emily? You have built so much, but vulnerability can cut deeper than any pain you've faced before. Picking at her thoughts, Emily felt the conflict waging within her. I'm aware. But it's time. I can't let fear dictate my life. Every encounter only shows how far I've come, not how much I can still lose. What if that resolve falters? Mia posed thoughtfully, a tension tightening her brow. What if you set out only to realize the scars still ache? Each syllable hit her like a drumbeat, reverberating in the hollow spaces of her heart. She thought of her timeline, the milestones glowing with promise and yet shadowed with echoes. If I don't embrace the ache, how can I truly move forward? I can't just hide behind my achievements. I have to integrate every piece, the hurt and the hope. Denial doesn't heal. Mia studied her, eyes piercing yet kind. So you want to weave the old into the new? Are you ready for the consequences? The potency of the query grabbed her. Past struggles had forged her, and this was not just about survival anymore, this was about reclamation. I'm ready to take that risk, Emily asserted, breathing in deeply as she steadied her resolve. And I need your guidance. Will you help me? Mia's expression softened, and a hint of relief washed over her. Okay, let's talk about the presentation and how we can prepare you for potential confrontations. You'll need more than just courage, you'll need strategies and clarity. As they sank into conversation, countless possibilities dancing in the air, Emily felt the weight of the unknown settle less heavily on her shoulders. This was the beginning of a transformation that felt tangible, an opportunity within grasp. But beneath the surface of that newfound hope, a gnawing worry lingered. What would her past do when faced with the resolve of her present? Would it be a cautious ally, or a vengeful storm? The conversation shifted from objectives and techniques, but within her mind, the question echoed like a haunting fragrance, both alluring and frightening. Let us focus on the narrative structure first. Once you start grounding your story, we can strategize responses, Mia instructed, redirecting her focus and allowing Emily to pull together the fragments of her past and future. As the hours passed in a blur of ideas and strategies, Emily found a new rhythm, a battle march surging into her soul. But as she discussed the unfolding of her story, uncertainty still flickered in the corner of her mind. Could she truly contain the storm, or was it only waiting for the right moment to unleash itself? A shadow darted behind her thoughts, and with it, she realized she had to prepare for both presentation and the unexpected thunderhead. Would she be a beacon, or would she drown in the tide? Emily, Mia interrupted, snapping her back to the moment. We'll make this work, together. But we need to be ready for the backlash. The weight of their plan settled heavily, anticipation curling around Emily's thoughts. She nodded resolutely, yet the undercurrent of doubt pulsed quietly beneath the surface. I will be ready, she whispered, even as the doubt lingered, a whisper against her tenacity. As the session wrapped up, Mia gave her one last piece of advice. Remember, every story needs a twist. How you confront this will decide if it's a tale of resilience or tragedy. With those words, Emily stood at the precipice of her journey, ready to confront her fears, but the swirling chaos of uncertainty loomed just out of reach, waiting to test her resolve. The challenge waiting ahead felt like an electric current, potent and vital. And there, in the quiet aftermath of her meeting, she wondered what she would uncover about herself as the echoes of her past closed in, ready to clash with her future. Tomorrow, I face that narrative. But would she find clarity or chaos waiting? The thought clawed at her, intertwining hope with the anxiety of the unknown. Emily awoke to the hum of city life filtering in through her window, the dawn light spilling through the shades, soft and tentative, much like her current resolve. Today wasn't just another day, it was the day. She would begin the work of reassembling her life narrative, weaving together past and present into a coherent story, a tapestry that reflected not just her struggles but also her growth. She dressed with intention, choosing a vibrant blouse that mirrored the tenacity she intended to channel. Each article of clothing felt like armor against the vulnerability that had plagued her for so long. Staring at her reflection, she whispered affirmations, repeating to herself, "I am prepared. I am ready to share." Yet, snaking through her mind were fragments of anxiety and doubt, whispers of hesitance that threatened to drown her confidence. Could she truly stand before the world she had so fervently kept at arm's length? As the hour approached for her meeting with Mia, Emily gathered her notes, a pile of scribbles and insights that had formed together over the previous days. They had classified her story, isolating pertinent themes and recurring motifs, shaped by both loss and resilience. Now, staring down at the pages, Emily realized that she wasn't just sharing her narrative, she was unearthing pieces of herself that had long been buried. Arriving at the cafe where they had agreed to meet, the scent of fresh coffee mixed with the sweet aroma of pastries enveloped Emily, momentarily calming the tempest within. The atmosphere buzzed with chatter, yet she felt cocooned in her own bubble, protected but ready to burst out into the world. Mia arrived shortly after, a reassuring presence that grounded Emily as they settled into a corner booth. Their conversation began with technicalities, rhythmically training her to navigate the arrangement of her experience, each slice of her life acting as a pivotal moment leading towards the person she was becoming. "Let us start with your core message," Mia encouraged, her eyes glistening with belief. "What do you want your audience to walk away thinking?" Emily hesitated, and then, with a surge of confidence, stated, "I want them to understand that every setback, every traumatic experience doesn't have to define us. We can redefine our paths, redefine who we are." The words echoed through her. She felt the rush of empowerment coursing through her veins. As they dove deeper, Emily encountered moments of resistance within herself. There were pieces of her story that felt unfinished, still raw and seeping with emotion. When Mia prompted, "What was the hardest moment to face?" Emily's heart raced. She could feel her palms sweat as memories threatened to overwhelm her, images playing like an old film reel. I don't want to revisit those shadows," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. The vividness of the recollections, the hurt, and heartbreak loomed like specters beside her. But Mia's unwavering gaze pushed her to confront her impulses towards self-preservation. "Emily, if we dilute your truth for comfort, we strip away its power," Mia insisted with a gentleness that embedded a resolve within her. "Your scars tell the story of your strength." As they sifted through her past, Emily recognized a pattern. When fear surged, so did her instinct to retreat, but today was different. Each recollection she voiced tightened her grip on her narrative, transforming her perspective. The feelings of victimhood began to dissolve, replaced with a newfound agency. She was not merely recounting events, she was claiming her experience, sculpting it into a story of triumph. Just then, Mia leaned in, her expression serious yet warm. "What if someone from your past shows up? Are you ready to face them?" The question sent a shiver down Emily's spine as the image of old adversities loomed in the back of her mind. It wasn't just her narrative she was preparing to share, it was her truth that wove through time, threading into the fabric of her present. The prospect terrified her. "I don't know," Emily admitted, her heart gnawing at her confidence. "What if it unravels everything I'm trying to build?" Mia's gaze held steady. "Then you confront it. Seek purpose in the chaos just as you're striving to do here." In that moment, Emily grasped the reality behind Mia's guidance. It wasn't merely about public speaking, it was about fortifying her sense of self against any storm the past might unleash. With a pulse of determination, she nodded. As they continued honing her narrative, an electric current of urgency filled the room. Emily realized the stories she would tell were not just for others, they were for her to claim her stage, to own her voice, to shatter the silence that had kept her bound for too long. Stepping away from the booth, Emily felt lighter, more grounded in her essence. Yet knowledge of what lay ahead sent a chill down her spine. If her past chose to venture into her future, how could she be rooted enough to withstand the sudden gusts it might bring? The sun dipped lower in the sky as she stepped out, the day unraveling into twilight. Tomorrow, Emily would confront not only her audience but also the ghosts of her past. Would she possess the strength to withstand the echoes that threatened to break her newfound resolve? Instead of fear, Emily chose to embrace the uncertainty. "I am ready," she whispered again, anticipation mixing with dread, gripping her tightly as she took her first step into the unknown. The morning of Emily's presentation arrived with a crispness that filled the air with potential. The sun peeked through her window, illuminating the pages of her meticulously crafted notes, each line a testament to her journey and the strength she had mustered to redefine herself. Today, she stood not as a victim of her past, but as a warrior ready to reclaim her narrative and share it boldly. As she dressed, the vibrant blouse felt less like armor and more like a second skin, a manifestation of the resilience she had nurtured. She had trained her mind to silence the whispers of doubt that often crept in, choosing instead to let her purpose guide her. Each affirmation echoed in her mind: "I define my life, I am strong, I will not retreat." When she arrived at the venue, the atmosphere buzzed with a palpable energy. Attendees were mingling, but Emily felt like a world apart, a current of apprehension coursing through her veins. Yet beneath that current was an undercurrent of anticipation. This was her moment. As she stepped onto the stage, her pulse quickened, but the stage lights warmed her resolve like the first rays of sunlight. The audience's faces blurred into an indistinct sea, and she drew a breath deeply, letting it swell within her, filling her with confidence. She began speaking, her voice steady, reclaiming her story piece by piece. She was no longer reciting lines but weaving an intricate tapestry of her life, a narrative rich with texture and depth. "I stand before you today not just to share the hardships I faced but to reiterate that overcoming those challenges has shaped my every stride forward," she declared, connecting with the audience's collective consciousness. With every detail she unveiled the moments of fear, the longing for freedom, the fires of resilience that ignited within her. The shadows of her past began to loosen their grip. Emily spoke of the strength found through her connection with Jack, the courage forged within herself, and the support she learned to embrace. Here, tangible and unashamed, she revealed the facets of herself that survived every dark storm. A shift took place in the room. She could see subtle nods of agreement and understanding as she shared her truth. Emily's blend of vulnerability and strength forged a bridge between her and her audience, creating an invisible thread that united them in mutual recognition of struggle and perseverance. "True strength," she articulated passionately, "comes from the brave decision to face your history and let it fuel your understanding of who you are today." The air around her thickened with emotion, her heart swelled with pride as she shared the resolved bond she was cultivating with Jack, how love and empowerment had created a safe space for both of them to flourish. She fought back tears of joy. It was a celebration of triumph over adversity, not just her own, but a testament to the resilience we all harbor. As she wrapped up, a thunderous wave of applause surged through the audience, each clap resonating as validation, each cheer amplifying her journey. Emily felt a lightness wash over her. The chains of her past had begun to dissolve, replaced with an empowerment she had fought so hard to grasp. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's life flourished in ways she hadn't anticipated. She received invitations to speak at local outreach programs, mentoring others who found themselves lost in their narratives. Each engagement rekindled her resolve, transforming her story into a catalyst for change. Jack stood beside her, proud and supportive, energizing every moment with appreciation and admiration. They began collaborating on community workshops, culling their experiences into tangible help for those navigating their crossroads. Art, counseling, and shared storytelling became tools for healing. Emily realized she was no longer tethered to fear. Her identity was woven into the fabric of her narrative, a vibrant tapestry that spoke of kindness, resilience, and authenticity. She had conquered the ghosts that once haunted her and was now creating the future she had dreamt of, embracing every layer of herself without reservation. In moments of solitude, as she reflected on her journey, fulfillment wrapped around her like a warm embrace. Emily had transformed. Her flight from fear had blossomed into an unyielding stand against it. The empowerment she helped cultivate echoed through the lives she touched, a flourishing testament to the truth that plagued her once but ultimately freed her. Finally, she stood in her workshop, a space she had envisioned filling with art and stories, an extension of dreams reborn. Jack entered, admiration glimmering in his eyes as he watched her immerse in the joy of creation. "This is just the beginning," she said, a confident smile spreading across her face. Her heart brimmed with gratitude and hope, the basal strength of her past fueling the promise of tomorrow. They were ready to begin anew. The legacy of her journey would build bridges, spark conversations, and inspire those lost in their narratives to forge their paths forward. Now, it is your turn to champion the voices of resilience and connection through these stories. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this inspiration alive. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your engagement is vital. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't keep this transformative power to yourself. You need to support this channel, and you have the power to make a difference. Take action right now.